The phantom discovery, the void between stars, held secrets that even the mighty Zephyrian Empire had never uncovered. Commander Vexthorn stood before the main display of the patrol vessel Stellar Dominion, watching sensor readings that made no sense. His forearms moved across the control panels with practiced efficiency, each of his 6 eyes focused on different data streams. The readings were impossible, yet they persisted. "Commander, we're detecting gravitational anomalies in Sector 77 Alpha," reported Lieutenant Maya Chen from her station. She was one of the few humans still serving in the Empire's outer fleet, her people having been conquered and scattered. 50 years ago, her dark hair was pulled back in regulation style, but her brown eyes held a sharpness that made her invaluable to the Empire's intelligence operations. Vex's mandibles clicked together, a sign of his growing concern. Gravitational anomalies without corresponding mass signatures. That's impossible, according to all known physics. Maya's fingers danced across her console, pulling up deeper scans. "Sir, it's not just gravity. There are electromagnetic shadows moving in formation. Whatever's out there, it's using technology we've never encountered before." The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries. Their advanced technology and superior military might had crushed every species that dared oppose them. Humans had been among the last to fall. Their homeworlds turned to glass, and their survivors scattered across the galaxy as workers and servants. The idea that unknown technology could exist beyond their knowledge was deeply unsettling. "Could it be the Andromedans?" Vex asked, referring to the mysterious species from the neighboring galaxy that occasionally sent scout ships into their territory. Maya shook her head. "The energy signatures are completely different. This is something new, sir. Something we've never seen before." Suddenly, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. Red lights flashed across the bridge as the crew scrambled to their stations. On the main display, space itself seemed to bend and twist in a way that defied all understanding of physics. "Report," Vex commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. Multiple contacts appearing on long-range sensors called out Ensign Drac from the tactical station. They're just materializing out of nothing. No jump signatures, no engine emissions, nothing." The main display shifted to show the tactical readout. Dozens of contacts were appearing across the sector, each one roughly the size of a capital ship. They moved with perfect coordination, maintaining formation even as they seemed to phase in and out of normal space. "Sir," Maya said, her voice tight with concentration, "I'm reading faint energy signatures from those contacts. The pattern ... it's almost familiar." Vex's eyes focused on her. "Familiar how?" Before Maya could answer, the communications console crackled to life. A transmission was coming through on an ancient frequency, one that hadn't been used in decades. "This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the Terran Liberation Fleet. We know you're watching. We know you're afraid. You should be." The message lasted only seconds before cutting out, but the effect on the bridge was immediate. Every crew member turned to look at Maya, the only human aboard. Her face had gone pale, but her eyes burned with something that looked almost like hope. "Terran Liberation Fleet." Vex's voice was barely above a whisper. "But humanity was defeated. Your worlds were destroyed. Your fleets were scattered." Maya straightened in her chair, and for the first time since Vex had known her, she smiled. "That's what you were supposed to think." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of Zephyrian patrol vessels. The mysterious fleet had appeared simultaneously in 17 different sectors, each group maintaining perfect stealth until they chose to reveal themselves. The Empire's communication networks buzzed with frantic reports and desperate requests for reinforcements. Admiral Cross stood in the command center of the Imperial battle station Sovereign's Will, his scaled hide gleaming under the harsh lights. Reports flooded in from across the outer territories, each one more impossible than the last. Ships that could bend space, technology that defied physics, and at the center of it all, the humans they thought they had crushed half a century ago. "How is this possible?" Cross demanded, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "We destroyed their worlds. We scattered their fleets. We hunted down their leaders." General Zara stepped forward, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence as she processed the incoming data. "Sir, intelligence suggests we may have underestimated human resilience. Our records show that significant portions of their population vanished during the final battles. We assumed they were destroyed, but they escaped," Cross finished, his voice heavy with the implications. "They've been hiding for 50 years, building this fleet in secret." The tactical display showed the positions of the mysterious human ships. They had spread across the galaxy's outer rim, positioning themselves near every major Zephyrian supply route and colony. It was a coordinated operation on a scale that should have been impossible for a defeated species. "Sir," called out intelligence. "Officer Mex, we're receiving reports of similar sightings from our deep space monitoring stations. These ships have been spotted over the past 6 months, but they always vanished before we could investigate properly." Cross's claws scraped against the metal railing as he gripped it tighter. "They've been watching us, studying us, learning our patrol routes, our defenses, our weaknesses." Back aboard the Stellar Dominion, Maya Chen sat quietly at her station, her hands trembling slightly as she processed what she had heard. The voice in the transmission had been speaking in perfect Terran Standard, a language she hadn't heard in years. More importantly, the name Sarah Martinez was one she recognized from the old Resistance broadcasts. Messages that had given hope to scattered human populations during the darkest days of the war. Lieutenant Chen, Vex's voice was carefully controlled. "What do you know about this Terran Liberation Fleet?" Maya looked up at him, and for a moment, the careful mask of loyalty she had worn for years slipped away. "I know that my people never give up, sir, even when the odds are impossible. Even when everything seems lost, humans find a way to keep fighting." The sensors chimed again, and the mysterious ships began moving. They didn't accelerate in any conventional sense. Instead, they seemed to slide through space itself, covering vast distances in moments while maintaining perfect formation. The Empire's most advanced tracking systems struggled to follow their movements. "They're heading for the Kepler cluster," reported Ensign Drac, his voice tight with tension. "That's where we established the human work camps after the war." Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sure sign of agitation. "They're not just back, they're coming for their people." The realization hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. The Kepler cluster housed nearly 1 million human workers, survivors of the war who had been forced into labor camps to serve the Empire. If the Liberation Fleet was moving toward them, it meant this wasn't just a military operation, it was a rescue mission, sir, Maya said quietly. "I need to report something. I've been monitoring old Resistance frequencies for years as part of my intelligence duties. There have been whispers, coded messages, signs that not all of humanity was defeated. I included them in my reports, but they were dismissed as the fantasies of a broken people." Vex stared at her, understanding dawning in his multiple eyes. You knew they were still out there." "I hoped," Maya corrected. "But I never imagined they could have built something like this." The main display shifted to show long-range scans of the approaching human fleet. The ships were unlike anything in the Empire's databases. They were sleek and angular, with hull designs that seemed to bend light around them. Energy readings showed power levels that rivaled the Empire's largest dreadnoughts, but the technology behind them was completely unknown. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Fleet Command. All patrol vessels are ordered to fall back to defensive positions. Do not engage the unknown fleet under any circumstances." Vex nodded grimly. The Empire's first instinct was always to attack, to overwhelm any threat with superior firepower. The fact that they were ordering a retreat spoke volumes about how seriously they were taking this situation. As the Stellar Dominion began its withdrawal, Maya remained at her station, her eyes fixed on the sensor displays showing the human fleet's advance. After 50 years of servitude, after decades of believing her people were truly defeated, hope had returned to the galaxy. The question now was whether the Empire would be wise enough to recognize that the humans they had tried to destroy had become something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The Ghost Fleet moved through space like shadows given form, and the Zephyrian Empire suddenly found itself facing an enemy that had learned from defeat and emerged stronger than ever before. The galaxy was about to change, and the humans were coming home. The reckoning awakens. The Imperial War Council convened in the deepest levels of the Sovereign's will, behind layers of armor and shielding that could withstand a direct hit from a supernova. Admiral Cross stood at the head of the obsidian table, his scaled hide reflecting the harsh lights as he studied the faces of his commanders. Each species represented in the room had once been conquered by the Empire, their worlds absorbed into the vast machine of Zephyrian rule. "Gentlemen," Cross began, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of military experience, "we face a situation unlike any in our history. The humans, whom we believed extinct as a military force, have returned with technology that surpasses our understanding." General Zara activated the holographic display, showing the current positions of the human fleet. The ships moved like ghosts through space, their energy signatures barely registering on even the most sensitive instruments. "Our intelligence suggests they've been preparing for this moment for 50 years. Every patrol route, every supply line, every weakness in our defenses. They know it all." Commander Vex, having been recalled from the outer rim, stepped forward. "Sir, I've had direct contact with these vessels. Their technology doesn't just surpass ours, it operates on principles we don't understand. They can fold space without generating the energy signatures we associate with faster-than-light travel." "How many ships?" demanded General Vex, his insectoid features clicking with agitation. "Conservative estimates suggest over 300 vessels," Zara replied. "But sir, they're not behaving like an invasion force. They're moving toward labor camps, not our military installations." Cross's claws scraped against the table. "They're not here to conquer. They're here to liberate." Meanwhile, in the depths of space, near the Kepler cluster, Captain Sarah Martinez stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, the flagship of humanity's hidden fleet. At 45, she had spent half her life in the void between stars, building the force that now moved toward their scattered people. Her graying hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her brown eyes held the weight of every human life lost during the war. "Captain," reported Commander James Park from the tactical station, "we're receiving confirmations from all fleet groups. Operation Homecoming is proceeding on schedule." Sarah nodded, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the tactical display. any response from the Empire. "Their patrol vessels are withdrawing to defensive positions," replied Lieutenant Commander Anna Volkov from the communications station. "They're not engaging, but they're watching everything we do." "Good," Sarah said quietly. "Let them watch. Let them understand what 50 years of exile has taught us." The New Horizon was a marvel of human engineering built in the hidden shipyards of the void colonies that the Empire had never found. Its hull was composed of materials that bent light and absorbed energy, making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. The ship's core was powered by controlled singularities, technology that humans had developed in the desperate years after their defeat. "Ma'am," called out Dr. Alina Vasquez from the science station, "we're detecting the first labor camp on long-range sensors. Kepler, Station 7. Population approximately 50,000. Sarah's expression hardened. Kepler Station 7 had been her home world's orbital platform before the war. Now it housed human workers who had spent decades in forced labor building the Empire's infrastructure while their own culture slowly died. Signaled the fleet. Begin rescue operations. The human ships moved with a grace that defied their massive size. They didn't charge toward the labor camps like conventional warships. Instead, they seemed to slip through space itself, appearing near their targets without warning. The Empire's defensive systems, designed to detect and intercept traditional spacecraft, were useless against technology that operated outside known physics. Back in the Imperial Command Center, alarms began blaring as reports flooded in from across the cluster. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Dex, "we're losing contact with Kepler, Station 7. Their defensive grid has gone offline." "Weapons, fire," Cross demanded. "No, sir, the systems just stopped working. No damage, no energy discharge, nothing." General Zara studied the incoming data, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "It's like they're using some kind of localized field effect. Everything electronic within a certain radius simply shuts down." The tactical display updated to show the human fleet's position. They had surrounded the labor camp completely, but no shots had been fired. Instead, smaller vessels were docking with the station, their movements precise and coordinated. "Sir," Vex reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Kepler Station 7. The human workers. They're leaving. The entire population is being evacuated." Cross slammed his fist on the table. "Evacuated? How? Our security forces number in the thousands." "Sir, the security forces are reporting that their weapons won't function. Their armor systems are offline. They're helpless." For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Cross felt something approaching fear. The Empire had ruled through superior technology and overwhelming force. If the humans could neutralize their weapons without firing a shot, what did that mean for the balance of power in the galaxy? Aboard the New Horizon, Sarah watched as the evacuation proceeded with military precision. Human workers who had labored for decades under alien masters were being brought aboard the rescue ships, their faces showing a mixture of disbelief and hope that broke her heart. "Captain," Dr. Vasquez reported, "we're receiving medical data from the evacuation teams. The workers show signs of long-term malnutrition and psychological trauma. Many don't remember their original names." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Then we'll help them remember. We'll help them remember what it means to be human." The rescue operation continued for hours, with human ships appearing at labor camps across the cluster. The Empire's forces could only watch as their workforce simply vanished, taken by vessels that seemed to exist outside the normal rules of warfare. No shots were fired, no lives were lost, But the message was clear. Humanity had returned, and they were no longer the desperate refugees the Empire remembered. "Sir," General Vec reported to Admiral Cross, "we're receiving similar reports from labor camps across 17 sectors. The humans are evacuating everyone. Not just the workers, but the children, the elderly, everyone." Cross stared at the tactical display, watching as red dots representing human ships moved across the galaxy like a swarm of ghosts. "How many people are we talking about?" "Conservative estimates suggest over 10 million human civilians across all the camps," Zara replied. "If they continue at this rate, they'll have evacuated every human in the Empire within a week." The implications were staggering. The Empire's economy depended on human labor. Their infrastructure, their mining operations, their manufacturing centers, all of it relied on the workforce they had enslaved after the war. If the humans were all evacuated, the economic impact would be catastrophic. "Sir," the communications officer announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's being broadcast on all frequencies." The main display shifted to show Captain Sarah Martinez standing on the bridge of the New Horizon. Her uniform was simple but well maintained, and her eyes held the calm confidence of someone who had planned for this moment for decades. "People of the Zephyrian Empire," she began, her voice carrying clearly across the vastness of space. "I am Captain Sarah Martinez of the Terran Liberation Fleet. 50 years ago, you believed you had defeated humanity. You scattered our fleets, destroyed our worlds, and enslaved our people. You thought you had won." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "You were wrong. Humanity doesn't surrender. We adapt, we learn, we grow stronger." The transmission continued, showing images of the human fleet in action. Ships that moved like living things, technology that operated beyond the Empire's understanding, and most importantly, the faces of humans who had never given up hope. "We are not here for conquest," Sarah continued. "We are here for our people. Every human who has suffered under your rule, every child who has grown up in your labor camps, every elder who has died in your mines, they are why we have returned." Admiral Cross watched the transmission with growing unease. This wasn't the desperate defiance of a defeated enemy. This was the calm declaration of a force that had spent half a century preparing for this moment. "You have a choice," Sarah said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "You can try to fight us and learn why 50 years of exile taught us things about warfare that you never imagined, or you can let us take our people home and never threaten humanity again." The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial Command Center in stunned silence. For 3 centuries, the Empire had been the dominant force in the galaxy. Now, suddenly, they faced an enemy that had emerged from the darkness stronger than ever before. "Sir," Vex said quietly, "what are your orders?" Cross stared at the tactical display, watching as the human fleet continued its rescue operations with methodical precision. They had come not as conquerors, but as liberators, and in doing so, they had revealed themselves to be something far more dangerous than the Empire had ever imagined. "Signal the fleet," he said finally. "Do not engage. Let them complete their evacuation." "Sir," General Zara looked confused. "We're just going to let them take 10 million workers." Cross turned to face his officers, his expression grave. "Those aren't workers anymore. They're citizens of a power we don't understand, going home to a nation we thought we had destroyed. And if we're very lucky, they'll be content to simply leave us alone." The human fleet continued its work, moving through space like shadows. Given purpose, they had returned not for revenge, but for redemption. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength had never been their weapons or their technology. It had been their refusal to give up hope, even in the darkest of times.